Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mind of Sai Marie. It's Friday, August 21st, 2026. Go grab you a drink, a snack, or whatever keeps you grounded because we're stepping directly into the dark at this midnight hour. So, usually when we think of history, especially 17th century France, we picture Versailles. We picture gold leaf, sweeping silk gowns, immaculate court dances, and King Louis projecting absolute untamed power. But history's most delicious secret is that the higher and brighter a society builds its pedestals, the deeper and darker the shadows underneath become. Right now, I want to take you into a corner of French history that isn't discussed nearly enough. A saga of high society paranoia, black velvet altars, covert alchemy, and aristocratic obsession. We're talking about the affair of the poisons and the woman who brought the grandest court in Europe to its knees, Catherine Monvoisin, better known simply as La Voisin. So, to understand La Voisin, you have to understand Paris in the 1670s. Beneath the public glamour, the aristocracy was rotting with anxiety. Wealthy women had no legal autonomy, inheritances were trapped behind marriage vows, and court favorites were constantly terrified of losing the king's favor. Enter Catherine Monvoisin. On paper, she was a midwife and a fortune teller, but in reality, she was a brilliant, ruthless entrepreneur of the underworld. Operating out of a discreet house on the outskirts of Paris, she built an empire catering exclusively to the top tier of French nobility. She wasn't just selling palm readings. If a young noblewoman wanted her husband out of the picture, she could claim her estate. La Voisin provided poudre la sécession, inheritance powder, a slow acting, untraceable blend of arsenic and belladonna. If a courtier wanted to guarantee a rival fell out of grace, La Voisin had a dedicated chapel in her home draped entirely in black velvet, lit only by animal fat candles, where she conducted elaborate midnight rituals and love philtres. She created atmospheric theater so convincing and results so deadly that the most powerful people in France were lining up at her back door in heavy cloaks. The sheer scale of this shadow network was staggering. At its peak, even Madame de Montespan, the king's chief mistress, was heavily implicated in using La Voisin's services to keep Louis bound to her as her youth faded. When the truth finally started leaking, Louis panicked. He established a secret tribunal called the Chambre Ardente, the Burning Court. Over 300 aristocrats were implicated. The scandal reached so high into his own inner circle that the king eventually had to shut the tribunal down and seal the records just to protect the crown's reputation. As for La Voisin, she was burned at the stake in 1680, but true to form, she went to the flames without naming her full client list. She took the darkest secrets of Versailles straight into the ash. So, what haunts me about stories like La Voisin isn't just the gothic aesthetics, the black velvet, or the arsenic. It's the human psychological friction beneath it all. It's the desperation for control, the lengths people will go to when they feel trapped by expectation, or when they are consumed by an obsession so heavy it borders on dangerous. It's that constant razor thin line between power and total surrender. That dynamic, the push and pull of control, the secrets we keep, and the heavy price of getting what you think you want, is the exact pulse behind my writing. When you look at my recent release of Masters and Slaves, that same tension sits in every room and every conversation between the characters. It's about what happens when two people enter a space where control isn't just a concept, it's the currency. And companion to that, which is explored in Dust Traces Never Fade, is the lingering aftermath. What happens long after the dust settles and the choices have already been made. I want to take a few minutes right now to pull you into that space directly. And so, I welcome you to listen as I open us up to read a passage. And I think we're going to choose, let's see. We are going to read a passage from of Masters and Slaves, excuse me. And I'm going to start with the prologue here. So, lean back and take a listen. Prologue, Princesses of One Heart. In their land, though dubbed the Isle of Ice, grew broad emerald meadows filled with beautiful white flowers and blades of grass so tall one can simply kneel and be hidden in an instant. This particular spring day, two beautiful young girls frolicked about, laughing and joking as they soaked up the golden rays of the sun. Two sweet sisters, the older girl being a strawberry blonde with a dash of redness to her otherwise golden locks, called Natalia, firstborn princess of the Adelais clan. The younger of the two was a platinum blonde beauty with eyes that pierced the soul as crystal clear, blue as the melting ice as it gave birth to pools from the perishing snow. Lydia, both the beloved princesses of the valiant King Eric Adelais and Queen Rhiannon Jorgensen. The two girls were raised when the songs of Beowulf could be well heard around the campfire and the tales of magic in the night, their preferred entertainment. For their people, blood and honor were two things that they knew went hand in hand. These were dark times, but with Natalia and Lydia being princesses of the notorious King Adelais, they never had cause to fear. The legends boasted of King Eric's ability to wield a claymore like it were nothing more than a feather in the wind, and his ability to lead men into battle made the sacking of the city by city no challenge for the king, and so the queen held no reservations on what the two girls were allowed to, provided they stayed within reasonable distance of their camp. Years and years passed with Natalia and Lydia playing in the meadows such that it became a usual occurrence, and the other villagers soon became accustomed to it. Though they were indeed a rough and nomadic people, they kept to themselves except when they needed something, or in the event that King Eric highly desired something. There was one thing for certain, though. Valiant King Eric was also ruthless, and if he settled an eye on something he wanted, he took it, and there was not a soul or thing that would stop him. For years, King Eric protected his daughters, but as Natalia grew older and her body began to morph into the ripe curves of a young woman, King Eric began to ponder upon dowries and clans to whom he could tie himself via the proper marriage of his eldest daughter. This meant Natalia would soon have to cease her childish behaviors and playing in the meadows with her younger sister. Indeed, Natalia had been blessed with hips perfect for delivering sons, as Queen Rhiannon fondly stated. Lydia, being only 3 years younger than her sister, had long feared this day and hoped her father wouldn't notice that Natalia was growing into the perfect bride-to-be, because for her sister to marry meant she would be alone, with no one to turn to her in her worst of moments. Albeit, Lydia was a little less adventurous and much more interested in becoming a wife and mother one day. She still felt some reservations about losing her sister to another clan. She enjoyed playing with her sister in the forest, but she also knew that she had to learn to cook, and provide for her husband in need one day, but it had been Natalia who taught her most, if not everything she knew. After all, it had been Natalia who was often distracting her to get them both into trouble by pressuring Lydia to abandon chores in favor of playing in the meadows. But she also made up for that by coming to Lydia's aid at every beck and call, and she was certain that Natalia's epic and soulful eyes played a part in pulling at her heartstrings. Each time she debated, Natalia seemed to have eyes that grew to the size of a large coin with fake tears brimming in the corners. It was amazing how well Natalia could guilt Lydia into being her companion in anything, but Lydia had a soft spot for her, and she wanted nothing more than to be accepted in her eyes. If only the two girls had any clue what was going to happen to them the day they chose to enter an open meadow in the midst of spring. If only they had known a rival tribe had camped in their woods, then maybe Lydia wouldn't have been lost to her family that day. Fate had something else in store, though, and by the end of the night, Lydia's commitment to the companionship with Natalia would be compromised in ways neither girl could either expect. That tension of who holds the leverage and what it costs to yield it is something that never really leaves us, whether we're looking at 17th century Paris or the private spaces of our own lives today. If you haven't picked up your copy of Masters and Slaves yet, or if you haven't dove into Dust Traces Never Fade, both of these books are my newest releases and they are available now. You can find them at the links in the episode show notes, and feel free to follow and connect with me elsewhere online. Thank you for spending this time in the dark with me tonight on the Mind of Sai Marie. And as always, remember, the mind is the most important story that we'll ever tell. Keep your secrets close, stay curious, and I'll catch you on the next episode of The Mind of Sai Marie.